Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Auntie's webinar about improving your recovery and enjoy your free time. I will give you a few moments to come online, and in the meantime, I want to remind you that your microphones are on mute. And if you have anything that you wish to share, you can freely use the chat or the Q&A section. And for those who are not familiar with Auntie, I want to remind you that Auntie provides preventative services for your own mental health that helps employees and to handle stress and motivation related challenges before they become overwhelming. Before we begin with today's topic and our presenter Hanna-Kaisa Raninen, I will try and I want to remind you that we will have a few moments in the end for questions. So if you have anything to share, you are free to do that in the end. But I think without further ado, I will let Hanna-Kaisa take the stage. Hanna-Kaisa is one of our experts at Auntie. So stage is yours, Hanna-Kaisa, take it away.
Thank you, Mikael, and good morning or whatever time zone you're in that time. So good morning to everybody. But today our topic is improving your recovery, enjoying your free time, and hopefully you're kind of well and relaxed today to kind of enjoy this half an hour or so. And today we have some reflection points for you at the, let's say, half points of the webinar. So I'm already asking you to be prepared so you will have some time to reflect your own recovery strategies there. And if you have the possibility at this time to maybe get some pen and paper, so that would be good for you to be able to kind of properly reflect those things. Or if you're kind of out and about or listening to somewhere else, then of course reflection just kind of in your head is just as fine. But if you have the possibility, then it might be nice to also kind of jot something down. But let's get started to our agenda for today. So we will go through fundamentals of stress as well. So looking at physiology, just very briefly, just to understand that when we are talking about recovery, we also have to talk about stress. There is no recovery without stress. So we will look at those both concepts today. Then you will get to reflecting on your own recovery methods and your daily modes, kind of recognizing, increasing your self-knowledge that way as well. And then we will evaluate a little bit how those recovery methods are working for you. And then, of course, at the end, you have time to ask questions or just share your ideas, these strategies that we're looking at, your comments. We will have a few minutes at the end, of course, for these as well. And if something comes up during the webinar, as Mikael said, you can already write it in the chat, so we will then respond at the end. Shortly about myself. So as Mikael already introduced me, my name is Hanna-Kaisa Raninen and I work as an Auntie professional. So my background is in sport and exercise psychology. Also I have an MBA. So with Auntie, I mostly work with our leader, manager packages there with leaders and managers and do some executive coaching as well. Stress management and recovery also kind of my expertise at Auntie. But let's get started and kind of looking at your recovery. So here are a few kind of takeaways from our Auntie clients about when they come to our services and what type of feelings, thoughts they have about recovery. So if anything here resonates with you, so hopefully then this webinar will give you some ideas, some tools for you to help yourself going forward. So just a few quotes. So after the workday, having no energy to do anything other than lie down and kind of doom scroll social media. So kind of feeling that the old things that brought joy and meaningfulness to free time have kind of gone away, or there hasn't been time for this in a long time. And in my Auntie work, I've noticed that after the COVID breakout and lockdowns and those type of things, we are kind of stuck in this mode of not doing the things that used to bring us joy and used to recover us, but we are kind of still looking for new ways of doing that. Or then feeling guilty and kind of feeling that I don't have the self-discipline to control kind of my free time and continue kind of the old things that brought me joy once, and kind of just swamped with work and everything, and finding it difficult to get back to those things that used to bring me joy. Or then, of course, there are other things that then are stressing people out, and there are some symptoms already visible with chronic stress. So trouble remembering things or concentrating or having a constant brain fog, those type of things. But kind of if any of those things even partly resonated with you, so now of course it's time to get ready and maybe get some pen and paper if that's your deal today, or just kind of relax and listen for today. But recovery, when we're talking about recovery, of course, it's good to understand that what we are talking about exactly. So recovery we would need every day. It doesn't matter if we've had a stressful day or a not so stressful day. So it's just something that we are fulfilling kind of our mental and physical resources back to base level. So I put the battery there as a very typical way of describing recovery. So we are charging our batteries after the day. And we cannot really store it during summer holidays, for instance, and we need it every day. So we cannot think that we are kind of going at 100% 5 days a week and then we recover during the weekend. But we need recovery every day. And when we're talking about recovery, of course, kind of taking care of our everyday well-being is essential. So sleep, of course, we know is very crucial when we look at recovery and physiological, emotional recovery as well. Sleeping good quality sleep, enough hours, and so on. Physical activity, nutrition, taking care of our close relationships and those type of things, of course, very important. And we know that people who have good fitness levels recover more easily during their nighttime sleep as well. So, of course, an important point there as well. But just for you to make a first evaluation kind of based on that as well, where would you feel that your recovery traffic light is at the moment? So we can think about recovery as of kind of resources and challenges. So if there's a good balance of challenges and resources in your life, so then you would be, of course, choosing the green light there. So it's pretty good. Everything's in order. So good recovery doesn't mean that there would be no challenges or no stress. We need stress in our everyday lives just to perform at our optimal level. Then orange, if you're feeling acutely challenged, so there is some acute stress at the moment or something happening in the past few days or weeks, but you still feel that it's going to pass, you have resources to manage at this moment. And then at the red light, so feeling stressed out of resources, so feeling that the challenges are overwhelming, are you kind of running out of resources? And usually, of course, what happens is that we are there at the orange stage for quite some time, and kind of that becomes our new normal. And then we move slowly to the stressed out zone. So it doesn't, of course, happen overnight, but there has been some overall load for some time. So you can also look at this of finding your traffic light for today, or then when you are looking at these things kind of in perspective, a few weeks back, a year back, how do you feel? And of course, maybe finding a positive perspective as well. So if a year since, a year back, you were in the red zone and now you're already coming to the green zone. So of course, during our lifespan, everybody has different stages with more or less stressors happening in everyday life. So it's good to sometimes also look back and see that I have survived those stressful times. But let's get to physiology for a second. So when we are looking at stress and recovery, what we are really talking about is kind of our autonomous nervous system. So this nervous system we cannot consciously control, but there are some things that we can do kind of to help the system work optimally. So the autonomous nervous system we can divide to two parts. So we have the parasympathetic, which is our rest system, and then we have the sympathetic, which is our stress system. So what happens here is that when we are in the stress mode, so the sympathetic nervous system is taking control, usually when we are doing the everyday things that we need to do. So like right now, I'm giving this presentation. So for sure, I'm not in any type of rest state. I'm here, I'm concentrated. I need to be in this sympathetic state to give you the best performance. So heart rate goes up, blood pressure goes up, breathing rate goes up as well. So this is a totally normal physiological state. It's just that afterwards we would then need rest and kind of with maybe our breathing, trying to breathe deeply, we will get to the parasympathetic state. And it would be important to have this wave-like movement with these two sides of the nervous system. So we wouldn't be in sympathetic mode all the time, but then we would have bouts of those. We would come back to rest stages throughout the day, and then hopefully then the parasympathetic side would activate when we sleep. And as I already kind of mentioned, we need acute stress. So it's beneficial, helps performance. It's something that without stress, we wouldn't be able to get out of bed in the morning. So kind of to get things done, to do the things that we need to do in life and at our work, we need stress. So that's something that helps us. Of course, then prolonged this chronic stress that we don't have enough of those recovery times then starts to weigh us down. And it's good to remember that stress experience in itself is individual and many factors influence how we perceive threat, how we perceive stress, what things stress us out. So we cannot really compare to our colleague or our partner or our friend. So the experience is individual, as our recovery method, as we will see later. But here in the graph that I've depicted here, kind of we can think about that each and every one has this growth and development optimal stress stage that they function well in. So maybe if we're looking at the traffic light kind of analogy here, that's maybe your green zone where your challenges and resources are in balance. You're motivated to do things. You have enough stress to keep you going. It's probably mostly kind of a positive stress and all of the challenges you're able to handle. And then even in that stage, you would need to have some recovery time, or then it will kind of lead to tiredness and eventually burnout. And if we don't have enough stress, so then of course we are bored, kind of nothing to push us to achieve the goals we have in life and at work. But here it's good to notice that maybe 100% of the time we cannot be in growth and development either. So we maybe go down to our comfort zone at times and then come back to growth and development as well. But when we are looking at recovery, so then it's good to look at how do we divide our energy throughout the day. So here in the kind of axis, we have nervous system activation, and then we have time here as well. So looking at, let's say this could be maybe one day starting from your morning and then ending when you go to bed, for instance. So here, at least in my screen, I can see it as a light green or grayish curve there, kind of going immediately up when you go to work, staying up all day. So you're expending that energy, being in that sympathetic mode all day, and then a kind of crashing at the end of the night. So this is something that we talk about with clients all the time. So kind of how to divide that energy throughout the day. So we would have some reserve left when we get off from work and get to the things that we want to do and enjoy during our free time. So rather than expending all energy throughout the day, kind of dividing it. So having these peaks and valleys here where you have bouts of performance, bouts of stress, and then if everything would work optimally and everything would be under your control, so then you would have some time for rest as well. So we can think about this when we are in Teams meetings, for instance. Do we have built-in time for recovery between meetings, for instance? Or if you're at the office, what types of things are your values? What are the recovery methods that work for you? Is it something that you're going to look out the window, go for a walk, chat, some funny things with your colleagues, for instance? So what are the things that would bring this type wave-like movement to your day? So here, of course, in the yellow zone that we can see then in this yellow curve that the energy levels are a little bit higher at the end of the day. So still leaving energy for other things. So not expending everything at work. But next, let's get to supporting your recovery. So looking at your individual recovery methods. So like I was talking about physiology, autonomous nervous system. So here is another way of looking at that through kind of feeling states. So recognizing your daily modes. And here are three that are, of course, the most common, and we can find equivalents in the nervous system function as well. So excited and performing is one mode during the day. So that kind of entails competition, striving, being very goal oriented, high energy, getting things done, obtaining necessities, all those things. And maybe working life, I think this goes really well. So kind of doing things, having to-do lists, getting the things done. And this is in no way a negative state. It's just that it's pretty accentuated in our society today. Then we have threatened. So feeling threatened, feeling fearful, for instance, either activates kind of action or inhibits action. So if we are kind of fearful of something, then we tend to attack. We tend to kind of go forward, or then, of course, more usually we will retreat a little bit and see what's going on and kind of isolate. So you can think about your modes, kind of where you feel excited and performing throughout the day. Are there phases there that you feel threatened? So this is something that is also kind of activating that sympathetic side, the stress side. And when are you in this third state? So safety and calm. So feeling attached to other people, feeling kind of compassionate, feeling content, kind of not so goal oriented, being present. So feeling kind of humorous even with other people, being affiliated with people meaningful to you. So those type of things that kind of would also kind of deactivate you in a way from that stress side. So one exercise here would be maybe to look at your day yesterday and kind of see your calendar and your day. How much time did you spend in each mode? But here, our task today for you would be to think about the feeling state 3. So that feeling of calmness, affiliation to other people, humor, laughter, being present, and thinking about how you are currently activating that state. And I will give you now 2 minutes of time. I will mute myself and stay quiet here, and you can work on yourself for that 2 minutes to naming 2 strategies that you use for your personal life, and then 2 strategies that you use at work to activate that feeling state of calmness, belonging, being present. And I will now count down 2 minutes and give you that time to reflect on those 4 strategies. So please go ahead. So that was 2 minutes, and hopefully that was enough time for you to come up with some current strategies. And I want you to now keep in mind the things that you chose for your personal life strategies, and we will evaluate them next. So, of course, we need effective recovery outside of work, and things that will detach us from work, and things that we feel meaningful to us. It's good to remember that we have individual recovery methods that feel nice to do all of these things. For somebody, it can be exercise and a sport, and for somebody, it can be knitting or playing a guitar or learning a new language. So, kind of, there is no discrimination that way. Whatever works for you, whatever gets the job done. So that's effective then. But we have some kind of common things that we know that work. So if your recovery strategy is somewhere along these lines of these 6 elements of psychological recovery, then it's probably pretty effective. So we know that the recovery method of your choice should probably relax you. So here we need that kind of parasympathetic side, so something that will physically relax you as well. So let's say sports probably doesn't do it at the actual moment that you're performing it, but then afterwards you're feeling kind of the effects of the endorphins and everything, so feeling pretty relaxed then after a few hours. The recovery method should probably also detach you from work, so mentally be able to take your thoughts away from work and kind of that you're present in doing something completely different. And then that you would be mastering a skill or honing an old skill, or learning a new skill. So something that is not related to your work in any way. So now, important part of recovery during your free time is that you're doing something that is stressing out a different system that you're stressing out at work. Then that you would have this sense of autonomy, so control of your own time, so that you have decided that this is something that I want to do, and this is my time, and I'm in control of it. So we are, of course, controlled by others at work already. So then if free time, most of the time is very, very affected by other people, so we don't have any control. So we start to feel the effects of stress pretty quickly. And then that you feel that your recovery method is meaningful. So like I said, it's individual, so that it's meaningful for you. You want to maintain it. There is some maybe deeper meaning in that for you, that you enjoy, that it feels nice. So that's kind of important. And maybe that you feel a sense of belonging to other people, to the wider community, to the world. So this can, of course, happen maybe if you're having a walk with a friend, or going for a walk and talking to your friend on the phone. It can happen other ways as well. You're listening to a podcast or something like that, and you feel kind of this affiliation to the people. Even though you don't know the people talking to you in the podcast, you can still feel a belonging to the subject matter, maybe in the podcast. So some type of this type of thing that you feel. So some of these things, of course, all can happen at the same time, or then you have different methods that some of these are true, and then others or then need a different method of recovery. And then getting back to your work recovery skills. So what we can think about is that recovery is actually a part of your professional skill set. So something as important as the other skills and strengths that you use every day in your work. So kind of setting realistic goals for the day, that you have maybe thought about 3 goals for the day that you're going to work at, so that at the end of the day you can feel this contentment, feelings of kind of success, that I had these goals and I achieved them. So if we constantly set very high goals and we then don't get to do them during the day, so of course the feeling state at the end of the day can be a bit negative, that today I tried but I couldn't. So then maybe making the goals more realistic. Then taking breaks that actually recover you, kind of things that you know that would be effective for you. So having those meeting times kind of separated by actual breaks. And all of these things are, of course, work community and organizational things as well. In this webinar, we're very concentrated on the individual responsibility, But of course, it's something that should be a matter of discussion within the larger organization as well. Then maybe conserving your energy. If you remember the wave-like curve that I showed you before, so having an end of the day ritual, so kind of wrapping up the day, already starting a few hours before to think about how I'm going to wrap up my day today. What did I achieve? What is still something that I need to continue with tomorrow? What will I start my day tomorrow? So having that type of thing rather than just kind of closing the laptop and then going home. So it's a surefire way for you to think about work the rest of the evening. So having some sort of ritual in place where you kind of wrap up your thoughts and things and then kind of set them aside for you to go and enjoy your free time. And then in kind of securing meaningful free time. So setting boundaries to those notification messages, emails that they're not pinging you from everywhere. During the workday, you have time to actually focus on the work at hand, so you don't have to multitask all the time. So taking care of your cognitive ergonomics, so to speak. And then at the end of the day as well, that if you choose to then use the flexibilities of working life and work in the evening, at least it's your choice. So it's not a responsive act to all of the notifications as emails popping up everywhere. And we have come to the end of our half hour today. So now kind of a final thought for you. How do you support your recovery? And here, of course, a very important question is, do you recognize your own needs for recovery? What are the strategies that you just chose? And do you believe that your needs for recovery are valid? So this is a very important question. If we kind of dismiss, we should just go on, we should just be able to handle this stress, we should this and that. So then we are not recognizing and not kind of really kind of believing that our needs are important. And the one thing that you could do now is to kind of maybe share one of your strategies for recovery at work or outside of work in the chat. So we will have a good discussion then at the end here. So please share in the chat so we can all learn from each other kind of regarding recovery methods. But thank you for listening at this stage.
Thank you, Hanna-Kaisa. There actually came a really good question in the chat earlier already. I think this would be beneficial for all that we answer to this one. And the question is simply that is the parasympathetic and the sympathetic system an either or, so on-off state, or can they work simultaneously?
They are either or, yeah. They cannot be simultaneously active. So that's true.
Yes. And I think a really good anecdote would, sorry, go ahead.
You go ahead, Mikael.
A really good anecdote on understanding them is thinking about riding a bicycle. So we need to pedal to be able to go forward. So we need the sympathetic activation, but we also need the parasympathetic activation for the brake handles in order to be able to stop.
Yes.
And you can't do both at the same time.
That's a wonderful analogy.
And of course, it's a balancing act. So if you go too slow, you have to stop and pull the brake. And if you go too fast, you have to pull the brake.
Yeah. And we don't need to think about kind of the stress system as being in any way negative. So we can kind of enjoy the benefits. It's just that we need to push the brake as well at times, just to be able to come back to that optimal stress level where we are able to perform again. So kind of course, my background is in sports psychology. So for me, sports analogies are very commonplace and very familiar. So just as you're thinking about an athlete, so they are not always kind of going 100%. So they also need recovery time and, 100-meter sprint. Then afterwards, they have the sprint, they have the kind of the performance, but then they come down and do some other things. So it's pretty similar for us in working life as well.
True. I think with that, we come to the end of this session, and being mindful of the time and everyone else's calendars. hope you had some food for thought with this mini webinar. And once again, thank you, Hanna-Kaisa, for sharing this with us. So be mindful of your daily activities and make sure that you have the recovery breaks in between also during the day. But with that, hey, have a nice day, and a recording of this will be sent to all who have registered for this webinar. So enjoy your day and see you with the next topic.